Hey there, and welcome to my channel. I'm Kathleen, and as a transition strategist, I help high-performing Black women navigate life and career changes without unnecessary chaos. So you can align your life and career with your values. And sometimes unnecessary chaos happens when we don't take the time to slow down, to pause. So if you've been wondering how to know if you need to pause and what to do, then this is for you. Because that was me not too long ago. I had a plan, I had a timeline, and then I hit a wall. And what I didn't expect is that slowing down would be the thing that I needed to give me clarity. It wasn't the plan, it wasn't my schedule or the timeline. It was that pause that I gave myself permission to take. So in this video today, I want to talk about what happens when we run out of steam and how giving yourself permission to pause isn't quitting. It's actually a strategy. It's realignment. And sometimes it's the most powerful thing that you can do. I'll walk you through what happened to me, what I've learned about internal pressure, and how you can start building a different relationship with your pace and productivity. So I was preparing to launch something new in my business, and I had everything mapped out. I had the strategy, I had the content plan, I had the timeline. I felt clear and I was excited. But about 1 week before my launch, I hit a wall mentally, physically, emotionally. I was just drained. And I didn't see that coming. And so I've been told, even before I started this launch, I've been told that a launch cycle is a lot of work and it takes a lot of energy. But I didn't expect to feel almost completely drained. And in a previous job, I was doing the work of three people, and I didn't hit a wall the way that I did this time for myself. But that's the thing. In corporate, you're told to push through and rally, and oh, you're almost there. You're at the finish line. Just keep going. So I started telling myself, well, maybe I'm just resisting. I started to ask myself, am I just self-sabotaging? Do I really need a break, or am I just scared? Because it's different when, you're betting on yourself, you're working for yourself, you're not, working for somebody else. It's different because I'm in the middle of my own transition too. And even though I help women, primarily high performing Black women, move through change with ease, I'm on that same walk with you. And so I ask myself, what do I want? And what effort am I willing to make? And that's also when I remembered that honestly, I wanted to do the best I can with what I got. And I really was trying my best. And I had to remind myself that my best looks different every day. And the same goes for you. Your best looks different every day. And so even though I stopped posting on social media, even though I had a content plan, I stopped posting on social media, but I was still showing up behind the scenes and in my own thoughts with my strategy and trying to figure out how to iterate, how to make some small changes. And I was also taking care of myself. All of that still counts. All of that is still doing my best with what I have. All of that is part of the work. And I'm still building the muscle and endurance that you really need to sustain a full launch, especially as a solopreneur, a solo business owner. But why is pausing or even giving yourself permission to pause, why is that so hard? For so many of us, especially us as Black women, we've internalized the idea that rest has to be earned, that if we slow down, we'll fall behind. And the truth is that belief or that idea, that's not our fault. It's systemic. For some of us, it's generational. For some of us, it is cultural. And as Black women, we're not given the same grace as others. We're not allowed to make mistakes. And many of us are taught that you have to get your work done first before you can do anything else. But the work never seems to end. And when I was an employee, the more I gave, the more was expected of me. And for some people, no matter what I did, it was never enough. And what surprised me, though, is that when I had a 9 to 5, I made sure to schedule time off in advance or take a mental health day if I needed to. So it wasn't always scheduled time. Some mornings I would wake up and be like, I just need a day. And I made sure to use my PTO. But in my own business, it's actually been harder for me to take those same breaks because I'm scared that if I take a break, I'm going to lose the momentum that I built. And when you've also been taught that progress is fast, it's visible, it's constant, it's in your face, it's easy to feel as though you need to keep going. That's definitely how I felt. I felt like to make progress, I need to keep going. I can't pause. I can't slow down because if I don't show up, like visibly show up, then how will my business keep running? But that's not a strategy. That's survival mode. And we all deserve more than just survival mode. And I got very good at setting boundaries when I was an employee, but I had to learn to set boundaries for myself with myself. Okay, can anyone relate to that? It made me realize that I had redefined success and rest for myself. I had to redefine it. I had just carried that same urgency culture into my business. You know, urgency culture in a corporate environment where, people follow up with you the same day and you haven't even had a chance to open your email, or people are like, "Oh, we're putting out fires." I was not a firefighter. I was not saving lives. Now, if you're in a field where you're saving lives, that's different, but most of us are not saving lives. But I brought that same urgency culture into my business, and I didn't expect to do that. And that made me ask myself some questions that I encourage you to ask yourself too. What's the worst thing that would happen or that could happen if you took a break? Like I said, for me, it was a fear of losing the momentum that I had worked so hard to build. Another question is, what's the version of success that you're chasing? And is it actually your version of success? So, like I said, I was, you know, using urgency culture from corporate America and bringing that into my business, but that's not how I define success. There's a difference between urgency and speed. Another question is, what would it look like to trust that rest is a part of the process and not some type of reward for finishing, or not the idea that you have to first get all your work done, then you can rest? What would it look like to trust that rest is actually part of the process? There are usually signs that you need to pause, and we feel it in our bodies too. So, I want to share some of the signs that showed up for me, and they might be showing up for you too. So one sign is that your routines start to feel restrictive instead of grounding. So I gave myself permission to ease up on some of my routines. So for example, I have a workout routine, and instead of lifting heavy weights, I gave myself permission to take a break from lifting and focus on taking long walks instead. And there were days where I didn't want to follow my meal plan, but instead of ordering takeout, I just relied on frozen meals or the prepared food section at the grocery store, so that I didn't feel like I was spending too much money on delivery and takeout and all the apps, but I was still, taking the pressure off of having home cooked meals, but still trying to stay within my nutrition plan. Another sign that you need to pause is that you keep pushing through to get things done, but you end up just kind of mindlessly going through the motions. So for me, the tasks that were on my lists and plans, they just became another box to check off. Like, oh, did I do this thing? Done. And it became like, how fast can I get these things done just to get them done, but not really being mindful or thoughtful or strategic about why I was doing those tasks. How did they, you know, meet the bigger picture, or how did they tie into the bigger picture? I wasn't focusing on that because I just was trying to get things done. And another sign is when you start feeling like you have something to prove, even though you know you don't have to prove anything, not to yourself and definitely not to other people. And so for me, I started feeling like I had to finish what I started simply because I started. But I wasn't in taking a pause. That's not a stop. It's a pause. It's a reset sometimes. And another sign is that you don't have the joy or motivation that you used to have. But this one is a little tricky because you're not going to be motivated all the time. That's where discipline comes in. But this is also where you have to know yourself well enough to know if do you need more discipline, or do you need to take a break? And that kind of leads me to my next sign that you need to take a break or pause is your gut is telling you it's time to reset. But you ignore that, or you try to tell yourself like, okay, after this week, then I'll take a break. My gut had told me that I had done enough and that I needed more time. But in the meantime, I needed to pause. That's what my gut told me. My gut was like, listen, done at this stage is enough. It doesn't have to be perfect. You've done enough. Do any of these signs sound familiar? And like I said, pausing, it's not about stopping and it's not just about taking a break, but it's really about tuning back in with yourself and asking, what do I need? Not what the plan says, not what everyone else is telling me, but what do I need? And give yourself permission to answer that. So, what can you do when your body or your mind are asking you to slow down? Instead of pushing yourself beyond your limits, here are three things that you can try. First, choose a pace that supports you, that's sustainable for you, not one that is sustainable for someone else or not a pace that someone else is on, but what is a pace that's sustainable for you, not just for today, but also for next week. Another thing you can try is to allow yourself to take pauses in the middle of a task. Everything doesn't need to be done in one sitting. So, something that I use the Pomodoro method, and it's where you set a timer for 25 minutes and you do 25 minutes of work. After the 25 minutes, the timer goes off, you stop what you're doing and take a 5-minute break. You walk around, and it could just be walking around your desk or wherever you are after 5 minutes, and you set a timer for the 5 minutes too. After that, you do another 25-minute sprint and then a 5-minute rest. And you do that 25-minute, 5-minute sprint as many times as you want. For me, it's most effective to do that within 2 hours. And I find that it's really helpful. And even though sometimes the timer will go off and I'll be like in the middle of writing a sentence, I will stop. And then when I come back, I pick up right where I left off. And that gives your mind time to rest. It gives your eyes time to rest. And you, like I said, you pick up right where you left off. You haven't missed out on anything. So give yourself permission to take breaks in the middle of a task. And then another thing you can try is reframe consistency, reframe what it means to be consistent. Like I said, your best looks different every day. And being consistent definitely doesn't mean that it looks the same every day. Being consistent with your own values and with your well being, that also counts. So, what does consistency mean for you? And this, it's not about doing less, it's about doing more of what matters and what will help you stay grounded and be present and really be sustainable. So, giving myself permission to polarity, it reminded me that my worth does not come from my productivity. I am worthy as I am. I thought that I was losing momentum, but really I was creating alignment. And that's actually what has helped me fuel my next move. So now I want to hear from you. What are some ways that you're going to give yourself permission to pause? Drop them in the comments. And if you want to dive a little bit deeper into this topic, I wrote a blog post that shares even more behind the scenes about my launch and the pause that I gave myself permission to take and how I shifted my approach. The link is in the description below. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.